say every stage remembers the voices that once filled it. Even when the lights go dark and velvet gathers dust, the air hums with memory, like a violin string no one touched in years but still somehow vibrating. At the end of a quiet street, half forgotten by the city that grew around it, the Orpheum sleeps. Tonight, it opens one eye. Richard lets himself in with a key that should have been surrendered a decade ago. No one asked, perhaps because no one believed the door would open for anyone again. The foyer smells of damp plaster and the last perfume ever spilled here. His breath chills in the air as he moves, slower than habit, careful not to wake what the dark has learned to keep. He pauses in the aisle. Rows of seats tilt toward the stage in the old, reverent shape. Chandeliers hang like dim constellations gone shy. A sheet of moonlight climbs the proscenium and breaks into pale shards on the boards. "Good evening," he says, voice rough with disuse. The building does not answer, but something listens. Power is a rumor in the Orpheum. One ghost lamp obeys, rising to a coin of amber that barely reaches the first rows. In that thin circle, Richard sees his hands. The tremor isn't only age, it is the weight of 1,000 silences accrued where applause used to fall. He takes the aisle slowly, fingertips brushing cracked leather, reading the seats like Braille. He remembers names he could never forget, directors who demanded truth, audiences who forgave mistakes if the heart stayed honest, and Margaret. Always Margaret, waiting in the wings with a look that steadied him like a hand on a ship's rail. He climbs to the stage the way men climb back into a life, one careful step at a time, not daring to look down at the distance between then and now. The boards greet him with a low whisper, "Hello, stranger," and he answers by standing taller. In the dressing room, mirrors keep their dusty counsel. Tape marks still outline where names once were. He finds the one that was his and wipes a swath clear with his sleeve. The man that looks back is older than any role he ever hoped to play, but his eyes, those have not retired. In the corner, a costume rack, skeletal, holding a single coat that doesn't belong to any character. His. He left it here the night a show closed and never really opened another. He lifts the coat, shakes out the years, and the room exhales. On the table, under a curl of brittle newspaper, a cue card. Act 3. Apology. He smiles despite himself. That scene always hunted him, not because of the words, but because of the breath before them. The breath you take when the truth finally refuses to be postponed. He takes a sip from a dented canteen. The water tastes like memory, not sweet, not bitter, simply undeniable. He draws the main curtain by hand. Threads of dust fall in silver. A follow spot wakes, reluctant at first, then convinced, painting an oval of pale gold center stage. The circle finds him as if it always knew where he would stand when the hour finally arrived. He faces the seats. An empty house can feel like a crowd holding its breath. "Thank you," he says to no one and to all, because gratitude is a habit worth keeping even when there is nothing left to receive. He opens his palms to the dark. "Shall we?" The theater answers with warmth, imagined perhaps, but so is every beginning. He speaks a prologue never written and always needed. "Ladies and gentlemen, lovers and strangers, latecomers and those who never left, this is not a comeback. This is a confession with good lighting." His voice carries, surprising him with its reach. The acoustics still do their gentle arithmetic, doubling a whisper into something everyone can hear. "Once, I believed a role could cure a man. You hold a posture, speak a sentence, receive a mercy called applause, and for a breath you feel forgiven." He looks to the wings where Margaret always stood. "Forgiveness," he says, and the word sits in the air like a chair someone meant to occupy. Act 1, he announces to the dark, the boy. A small town, a smaller stage. He was 13, and the audience was church pews, but to him it was Broadway and heaven. He forgot a line, then found it again, and when the last word landed, an old woman in the third row dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief the size of a folded map. He walked home that night feeling taller. On the kitchen table, his father had left a note. The yard needs raking. Don't let pretending keep you from what's real. That's the trick, Dad, Richard says to the room. Pretending reveals what's real. He learned that from the stage. The way a lie, spoken honestly, becomes a truth you can use. Act 1 ends when a boy learns a secret. A name spoken on stage can weigh more than your given one. It can save you. It can also cost you all the quiet you thought you loved. Act 2, he says, and the light seems to lean closer. She arrives. Margaret did not enter like a lead. She appeared like a line that fixes a sagging scene. She tied her hair back with a ribbon and unknotted every room she walked into. On opening nights, she brought him oranges, for the throat, for luck, for sweetness you can peel. And he believed in fruit as much as he believed in craft. In rehearsal, she taught him the kindness of the breath before a retort, how love is not the thing you say, but the space you make for someone else to say the same thing first. They were not dramatic in private. They were a pot that simmered instead of boiling. You could live on that for years. He should tell you how it ended. No third-act storm, no broken plates, just 2 calendar pages that refused to be on the wall at the same time. She wanted mornings he kept postponing for nights. He wanted applause to explain him. She wanted the table set. They tried, and trying is love's most honest close. But one evening, after a performance that went better than he deserved, he came home to a note that used the simplest words in the language and the heaviest. I think we need different walls. He read it 3 times and did what actors do. Went on anyway. There was a season when roles thinned. He taught workshops, said yes to projects whose scripts arrived already sad. He learned the names of every usher because they carried light, where he couldn't. He still came to the Orpheum on days without shows, sat in the back row, and listened to the chairs creak like a chorus of careful opinions. He learned to enjoy leaving with nothing but the idea that he would return. The city changed. Coffee arrived in cups with names he didn't know how to pronounce. The theater district lost 2 houses and gained 3 condominiums that looked like they had been printed instead of built. The Orpheum stayed, not because anyone fought for it, but because sometimes neglect is a kind of rescue. Now, center stage, he addresses them, whoever they are, whatever they are. Good evening, he repeats. If you are memories, take your seats. If you are mercy, the front row is open. He feels foolish and free at once. You can be both. That is art's first rule. He chooses a piece from a play that never paid his rent but did pay attention to his soul. This is the apology, he says, not the one in the script, mine. I wore masks to avoid showing my face, and then complained no one recognized me. I learned the speech about honesty and forgot to speak it at home. I let a theater forgive what a table could not. If I am late to the truth, I am at least dressed for it. Margaret, if walls can carry a voice, let this one carry mine. I was yours. I am yours still. In the way we remain the people we promised each other to be, even after we stop sharing cupboards. He bows his head. The floor holds him up anyway. Listen closely, and you might hear it. The building answers. Not with words. Houses. Prefer wind, but with a quiet that loosens the chest. The light broadens. The aisle seems less long. For one heartbeat, Richard swears he smells her perfume. A little citrus, a little laundry soap, the absolute ordinariness of the extraordinary. "Thank you," he says, and realizes he is not thanking the theater alone. He remembers the single standing ovation that taught him what they meant and what they didn't. Opening night, an audience rose like grass in wind. He felt taller and emptier at once. Later, backstage, Margaret was sitting on a milk crate, removing hairpins like she was releasing a flock. "Don't keep it," she said, smiling. "Let it pass through. That's how joy works." He has failed at many instructions. He tried to keep that one. He looks up into the grid. Cobwebs take the place of banners. How many names hung there once, painted on canvas, rolled like scrolls, forgotten by everyone but the ropes. He thinks of the crew, always invisible, always essential, and tilts his head as if to thank the rafters for the hands they used to hold. Outside, the city rehearses its own endless play. Taxi lights bowing, restaurants delivering second acts to first dates, the quiet war of people choosing tenderness over cleverness one table at a time. Inside, one man measures a life not by awards, but by evenings when words made air behave differently. Isn't that all theater ever asked to do? He invents now. The script has run out of certainty and left him something better. Room. "So," he tells the unseen crowd, "what would you like to hear?" A draft moves across the stage. It feels like a hand motioning him forward. "I'll tell you the story of an understudy who went on and forgot the one line that was supposed to make the audience believe everything else. He panicked. He skipped to the end. It ruined the scene." He looks out into the space where the orchestra pit once was. "I spent years skipping to the end. Tonight I'll do the opposite. I'll stay here, in the middle, until the breath is done." He speaks as if writing. "Dear Margaret, I practiced being good at grief instead of being good to you. I thought tragedy was proof I was deep. You wanted dinner at 7. You won, by the way. Dinner at 7 is better than monologues at 9. I didn't know yet. I'm sorry for all the times you offered ordinary, and I asked for thunder." His voice thins, then strengthens. "You married a man who could make a full house hush, and I gave you a kitchen that couldn't hear me ask how your day was. I am late, but I am here." He folds the air in front of him like a letter and tucks it inside his coat, sometimes pretending is the only way through to the thing that's real. He offers one final piece, the monologue that once made him a name and tonight returns him to himself. He does not shout. He does not reach for tears. He lets each sentence step where it needs to and refuses to rush the next. It is not technique that makes the house hold its breath. It is the courage of an older man to speak without armor. He comes to the last line, always simple, always hardest, and allows silence to arrive before it. The good kind of silence, with chairs in it, waiting. I am not asking for another curtain call. I am asking for the grace to leave the stage as a person, not a part. He bows, not the performed arc but the human one, and the boards accept the weight of his gratitude. He hears it before he sees it, a thud like a small fruit given to gravity. A rose rests near his shoe, petals open as if beholding, stem fresh enough to glisten. No doors moved, no hands extended. Joy sometimes hires no crew. He kneels, careful, grateful, and cups the flower like an apology you finally know how to carry. When the curtain falls, no rope pulls. Old houses know how to bow all by themselves. He remains kneeling a moment longer, then sits on the edge of the stage the way boys do, heels knocking lightly against wood. He looks out at the seats, at the molecular audience he conjured, and the molecular mercy that answered, and he smiles. If you have to choose between proof and peace, choose peace. It holds longer. The caretaker will find nothing unusual. Dust in its appointed places. A ghost lamp dim because that is its job. But on the center seam of the stage, where two boards meet like clasped hands, a single rose will wait. People will explain it. People always do. A stagehand with a key. A late florist. A prank. Let them. Not every kindness needs to file an affidavit. They say every stage remembers. I believe it. I've seen rooms forget men faster than they forget a line that mattered. Tonight, the Orpheum added something small and durable to its memory. Not a triumph, not a return, only a man who finally learned how to end a scene. If you walk past on a winter night, you might hear it, the soft arithmetic of a voice measuring its words properly at last. Don't be afraid. That sound is not a haunting. It's a homecoming. Thank you for listening, whoever you are, wherever you are. The house bows, the light rests, the story keeps.